main idea today? The main idea is taking words and trying to say, okay, what does this mean mathematically? How do I kind of translate what this is saying into something that I can use or something that I can extrapolate and simplify? Because here's often the issue. Let's look at this first situation. Christelle earns spending money by babysitting on weekends. She charges $15 an hour. I'll show you what we offer. So we start out by making a table, and this is pretty good, okay? So what if she works, let's say, 0 hours? How much does she earn?
0.
That's good. I'm glad you didn't say she makes anything. That would be a good deal if she worked 0 hours and she made money. Then I would really want that job, but no, she makes $0 if she works 0 hours. What if she works 1 hour? 15. Hey, what if she works 2 hours? Pretty straightforward relationship. Hey, what if she works 3 hours? What if she works 4 hours? Now here's the issue. Most of us are really good at saying, okay, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. We can just figure out an extra 15. What if instead she works 100 hours? Right? So what if it isn't just quite as simple of a jump, going up by 1, going up by 1, going up by 1? Well, the way we would deal with something like this needs to be along the lines of writing an equation for the problem. Right? We need to think, okay, how can I be a little bit more general? Because actually, if you want, you could just go plus 15, plus 15, plus 15, plus 15, plus 15, and it would work. It's not the most efficient, but it would work. But if we can make an equation and figure out some way that we could just substitute in for any value, this will be a little bit simpler for us. Okay, so how would we connect the amount of hours she works with the total earnings as an equation? Well, let's think, okay, what if we call the earnings, I don't know, E? And what if we call the hours of work H? Is that okay? Those don't have to be the numbers. I'm just choosing those because they're the letters that's given there. So how can I relate hours of work to earnings using some formula? I could say E equals something. What do I need to multiply hours by to find my earnings? Yeah, just $15 per hour. So I could say 15 times H. And this is actually good enough for a general term. Because now I can say, okay, what would be her earnings if she works, say, 20 hours? Well, we would find earnings would be equal to 15 times 20. So she would make $300 in that case. Or what if it was instead 100 hours? Right, yeah, 15 times 100 is 1,500, 1,500, nice. And how about going the other way? This is like an algebra equation where instead you have y and you're looking for x. Well, if she earned $105, and we know it's 15 times the amount of hours worked, how can we then find the amount of hours worked? Yeah, exactly, opposite operator. Brilliant. I think this might be a class that I don't have to teach you guys, we can just probably teach it all. Okay, what's that? So what was 105 divided by 15? Yeah, so pretty good, $15 an hour. I used to babysit quite often when I was around your guys' age. Well, I was kind of picky. My sister babysat for this family. They had 5 kids and a huge dog. And she made, I think, like $12 an hour. Not especially profitable. I grew up in Red Deer. And I worked for I basically only babysat for this one family. They had 2 boys. The boys were like maybe 11 and 9. They were pretty easy. They really liked playing hockey, so we would just play mini sticks. And then they went to bed super easily. And then they had some like fancy video game system. So it was like I would play mini sticks with them, put them to bed, play their video games, and then their parents would always stay out relatively late. So I'd get like 6 hours of work. I think they paid me like $20 an hour. It was a good deal, which was better than the time where I babysat for like the 4 kids that were just absolutely wild, and then they paid me $5 an hour. In a case like that, you gotta be strategic here. So $15 an hour for babysitting, that's pretty good, I think, in general. Although I guess now minimum wage is $15 an hour, or 13 if you're under 18. When I was in high school, I worked at our co-op, our grocery store. Minimum wage was $8.15 an hour, I think, to start. Maybe it was $7.80, and then it got bumped to $8.60. But minimum wage was $8.60, and I was still getting paid $8.15 an hour. I'm not sure how that worked. So $13 an hour. Okay, totally sidetracked. How about this? So Nasir put gas in his car on Friday. Cost was $1.20 a liter. Okay, so I know it's a little bit boring, but I do think with linear relations, it's usually best to start with 0, right? Start with your 0 term. In a case like this where there's no constant added, of course the 0 is going to be 0. but it's still going to be really nice in general to start from 0, just to kind of give yourself somewhere to go from, okay? So it's not that you have to, but in general, your life is going to be easiest if you start from 0 and then work methodically up. And generally, in a case like this, you go up by once, right? There's no reason not to. So if you put in 1 liter gas, how much it cost? Right, about 20 a liter. 2 liters, yeah, and on and on and on. You can probably complete this, 360, 480. I do always find with a boring table like this, just to keep yourself half engaged, give a more interesting number as your last step on the bottom, right? We all can see, yes, 5 liters would be $6, so give yourself something slightly more interesting. And then how would you model this as an equation? Well, this is like a cost and input thing. I would say call liters L, call cost C. But once again, you wouldn't have to. I'm just picking letters that sort of make sense given the formula. So in this case, I'm going to say cost is equal to something times the amount of liters. What's that something? What's the coefficient? Yeah, 1.2. You could say 1.20, no big deal, right? 1.2 times the amount of liters. So what would be the cost of 55 liters? Well, that's this in this case. So cost is equal to 1.2 times 55 liters. Now we just sort out what that is. 66, nice, thanks. $66. Do we have that affect anything? Okay, now in this case, I found usually the first step like that, most people are pretty easy, right? Set up your cost is equal to 1.2 times liters thing. In general, if you're going to struggle with something like this, it's probably on this step where it's like, okay, now we're given cost. So if cost is equal to 1.2 times the amount of liters, in this case, we're given cost and we're looking for liters. I found for some people who have done quite a bit of science, they often already have the habit of like listing variables. C equals 42, L equals question mark. That is a habit that will serve you well in this class. I will not force you to. You don't have to list variables, but it is definitely a habit that usually serves you well. Because just in terms of setting up formula stuff, in a case like this, well, the formula only has 2 variables. If you know one of them, you can always find the other one. Right? So just listing, okay, which one do I have, which am I looking for, is sometimes an easy way to set up an equation. So in this case, okay, so I'm looking for L. 42 is equal to 1.2 times L. And as Silver pointed out for us last time, you just divide. You do the opposite operation. So divide by 1.2, divide by 1.2. So we say L equals 30 something. Oh, I was going to say 36. Good thing I stalled it. 35. I guess here's the issue. Maybe L was a stupid variable to use. L equals 35L. Maybe we could just say that's like a matrix or something like that. But how much did he buy? He bought 35 liters of gas for $40. Also, of course, yeah, 35 times 1.2. Add 7. Okay, that's where we'll start with. We'll see how this goes. I'll be candid with you guys, because you're my grade 12 class this term. Math 30-3 is a course that has a lot of short lessons. It has a lot of lessons. It's kind of a full course, but it has a lot of lessons we can do quickly. So I'm going to give you guys some flexibility. Some days we will need to do 2 lessons. Lots of days we won't. So oftentimes, on a day like this, we still have 50 minutes left of class. I can give you guys the next 20 minutes to work and we can move on to the next lesson. That's fine. I'll need to do that sometimes. Sometimes we won't need to. Sometimes we can just work for the 20 minutes and then play board games, play card games, work on other stuff. We have the flexibility to do both of those just sometimes. So I'll just check in with you guys oftentimes around 2:30. Like, is this a day we want to do more, or is it a day we want to slow down? Okay. So just kind of keep in mind, how am I feeling? Do I need to grind through this, or am I okay just to kind of slow her down? So that'll be a conversation we're having regularly. Okay. Good.